Hello Stitchy friends, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs. Welcome. Today I will be sharing the background for the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery Still Life project. Mine is just about done, not completely, but it's almost there. I should have it done by the time the new prompt comes out on Sunday, and you're probably wondering why this is here. This was a trifold pouch that we made with one of the Roxy's Journal of Stitchery projects, and it was a trifold pouch. And what I did on this one was to just collage different pieces of fabric on here. This is just all collaged fabric, and so I didn't decide to do that on this particular project because knowing that we're getting 5 prompts, I wanted a calmer background, something that would sit in the background and let the prompts kind of stand forward. So this is what I did, and I had shown this in my last video. I'll try to zoom out here. I chose to use larger pieces of fabric for the background, and then I would collage on top of those larger pieces. And I thought this way, hopefully the background will not take center stage, but will recede away from this this little scene. At least that was my thinking. And I will start with the table and how I approached that. In the first video, I showed how I laid all of this out. I just sketched something on this batting so that I had an idea of where I was placing things. And once they were laid out, I didn't invisible stitch anything. I just went right to stitching on this, and I'll try to show what I did here. So for the table, I decided the way that I would hold it down rather than invisible stitching would be to stitch in some grain, some wood grain. So I drew on here a wood grain pattern. I don't know if you can see this, and I used 2 different colors of thread on here to kind of give that wood grain look. And of course, in doing so, it stitched down this fabric to the batting. It didn't go all the way through to the backing in a lot of instances, but at least it attached it to the batting. And then when I knotted off, it did go all the way through to the back. So the back is securely on there. And then what I also did, I would like this to look like an old farmhouse that you might find in the country. And so what I wanted this table to look as if it had been painted and the layers of paint underneath were showing through. I did this on a project in our great room. There's a table in front of the bay window, and I wanted to paint it white, but I wanted some darker color paint to show through. So I painted black in certain areas. And when I was painting the white, I let it dry a little and then just took a wet cloth and rubbed away the white so that the black is exposed. And so it gives it that rustic, old look. I love to make things look old. I don't know why, and distressed, but that's what when I'm doing furniture and things like that, or walls. But so that was my intention here with these little pieces on this background. And what I used here, I'll try to bring these closer so that you can see these. So I just wanted it to look along the edge of the table, where the edge of the table is, that that they were the paint, the gray paint was rubbed away and the blue was showing underneath. And where I got that blue was this fabric with the birds on it. And I particularly liked this bird because this was a very faded looking blue, and I thought that would work nicely for those faded pieces. And I used some of the other portions of other birds. for some darker pieces. You can see here there's something too. So I thought that that would add a little interest to this. So after I stitched all of the wood grain on this piece, I added these pieces of wood, or worn away pieces of wood on there, hoping to give it that look, that vintage kind of an aged look. So that was the table, getting the table done. That I did first. I thought I would work from the bottom up, from the bottom to the top. And so next I stitched this wall, and this wall is just done with running stitches down the side, and then there's a length of running stitches down the middle here, and then this side. And then these strips that were torn, I running stitched those on either side of the strip. So I'll try to give you a better, I wonder if I have something, just one second. I'll take one of my design boards and maybe it'll give a little more stability here. So that is just stitched through with running stitches, and these strips that are torn are stitched with the running stitch. And then these pieces of fabric are the back side of this fabric. This fabric and this fabric are different. See, this is the right side of this fabric. I used this side because I didn't want anything too jarring in the background. I want the background to be quiet and kind of fade into the background so that the objects that we put on here in the foreground will show up a little bit more. So just some running stitches here on this, and this was just torn. Again, this is the back side, the wrong side of this fabric that's on the wall. And just to look kind of like peeling paint, there's some of it up here also, just to look like peeling paint, and some down here. So I thought with my background I would collage on top of, rather than doing little patches all over, I thought I would just collage some pieces on top of the fabric that I had laid out. And I also decided to add this butterfly because I thought, I'm sure that someone left the window open with the screen wasn't down, and a little bird flew in and a butterfly. So I thought that they would add some interest to the background. And that butterfly comes from this fabric. I just cut that out of this fabric here, and I may thread paint this between now and Sunday. So, and that's just stitched with regular 50 weight thread on there. And again, I may do some thread painting just to accentuate it a little tiny bit. And then this little chickadee that flew in when the window was open and landed on the top of the window frame. So I just put that there, and that is from this fabric. And here's one of the little guys that was from that. Matter of fact, I think I have a little bird here that I may, yes, it's already cut out. I have this little bird that if there's room on the table, I may add this little bird maybe down here somewhere, hiding behind something. I'm not sure. So just have some little elements that I would like to add to the background to make it look interesting. So that was that wall. And then next I tackled the window frame. And this window frame, again, is the wrong side of the fabric. I wanted a weathered looking wood for this. And this is stitched with 2 rows of running stitch. I didn't do a cantha stitch all over this. I just did some running stitches for these things. This down here, the wood grain, is an outline stitch one of my favorite stitches. I always seem to go to that. But this is a running stitch on the window frame. There's really nothing on the window itself. And so that, excuse me, secured the window down, the fabric and the frame. And then for the tile back here, I just did some running stitches in where the joints of the tiles are, and that I did with a pearl cotton number 12. I tend to like the finer pearl cottons, so I just thought it would add a little definition to that. So that was the tin wall, and then up here I added that lace or crocheted trim from a dresser scarf or a doily of some kind, some vintage doily. And I just added this up here almost as if it's a molding along the top of the wall. And I thought that added some interest to this whole piece. I didn't cut up any vintage linens or doilies or things like that, just because the way my mind works is I just thought that would be too much chaos in the background. That's probably just the way I think. I thought it would be a little too much in the background, and I needed something to be more calm. And so I didn't really cut up any linens or doilies or things per se to put on here. I am thinking of adding a few elements. I thought it might be fun to add a little egg. Maybe this little chickadee, while it was in here, laid an egg. I may put it somewhere in the picture. I don't know. We'll have to see what the prompts are again. And I also have some books. I don't know if I will choose this color books. I have a fabric with lots of different books in it, but I thought it might be interesting to have something like that on this table, maybe off to one side. I don't know if we're going to have a vase of flowers on here, or a bowl of fruit, some books. I don't know what the prompts will be, but I just thought it might be interesting to have some ideas just in case. This was another bird I had considered, but I decided against that little bird. And here are some flowers. If we do have a vase of flowers, I thought I might use some of these. Might be interesting on here. I also have this fabric too, and I love some of these flowers. I thought I may use some of these on there. This whole vase is really a kind of a pretty, I don't know, maybe that could be used if that's one of the prompts that we get. This is a very pretty fabric. And I also have the fabric that goes with this. Let's see, let's put this here. This fabric goes along with this McKenna Ryan. This is maps. This is a world map fabric, but you can't really tell. Again, I chose this because I liked the way it gradated the lighter down into the darker. I thought it looks like the light from the window is shining on this. So this has, I love hydrangeas, one of my favorite flowers. So if we do get a vase of flowers, I thought that might be nice to use some of these. I don't know. I would love to have all white things on this table. I love decorating with just white vases and little white ceramic houses and white bowls. I just love that look. I think it's so pretty. So I don't know, I'm debating if I want to, if we do have a vase, if I'd like to keep everything white or put color in it. Again, I'm not sure about that. Also, I have this little doily here. This is a very fine doily, not a heavily crocheted doily, and I didn't know if I might put something like that as part of a window treatment. I don't know that I want to go that route or not. So that's kind of a possibility. I think I'll see what it looks like with all of the other prompts that are given to us. And then I also decided to add this lace. This, I'm guessing, is a bridal lace. I think I got this in Joanne Fabrics, oh gosh, years ago when we were doing prom dresses and things. And so I thought that that might be kind of interesting for texture and adding to the look of this. So I cut out some pieces that are triangular, kind of a long triangle, a long side and a short side. And I thought it might be interesting to add these on top of this fabric to give it a little bit of texture. And so I cut several pieces to put on here, and a piece maybe up here on these tiles, and I think it just kind of adds a little, you can still see the tiles through there, but I think it adds something interesting. And this is just a little triangular piece that I cut that I thought might be interesting here. So I'll see if you can see these and what they look like. The lace, it's probably hard to see on camera, but they do add a nice element to this. They add a nice texture and element. And I would just stitch these on with regular 50 weight machine sewing thread, just again to give a little bit of, a little bit more, I'll slide this over, a little bit more interest and texture to this background. Again, I'm trying to keep mine quiet so that whatever is in the front will show up nicely. So I'll just take those off quickly. That is one of the things I still have left to do, to stitch on these little elements, but that's not much. That shouldn't take long to do. And I think, let's see, the last thing that I think I did, I'll zoom out a little bit. The last thing I did on this piece was, again, I'm not going to be putting mine on a stretcher bar canvas, a canvas with stretcher bars. I just don't think that's what I'm going to do, but this will be a wall hanging of sorts. So I wanted a frame around it. And what I did was I just tore some strips of fabric. This is the fabric that I used in the window, and I used the back side of that, and that is on the border here. I can use these pieces for maybe quilting or other slow stitching. These are some pieces that I had torn to put in the border. That's over here. And here's some more pieces, and I would say that's about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 strips, and just tore the edges and so that the torn edge would be towards the seam. And this is a William Morris print. This is the fabric that is on the walls, this side wall. And again, I used the back side of that fabric to look like peeling paint here on here. And lastly, this little piece of fabric, which is so pretty and cheerful. Where is that? Did I put that? Oh, I think it's way up here. Oh, maybe I didn't even use this one. No, I don't think I used this little guy. Oh, that'll be used for something. And I don't have, let's see, this this one, which I love, which looks like blue willow. That one is, that is this fabric. And so I tore a strip sparingly of this because I love this. I have this in another colorway also with a sort of a teal background and the blue flowers. But I put this along the edges too. Kind of makes me think of a blue willow pattern in dishes. So those pieces are stitched on. Oop, all these strings from tearing things. I get tangled in the strings. So those pieces are just stitched on with a running stitch close to the torn edge, and then another running stitch towards the folded edge. So that's just how that's stitched on. And on the back, I'll just come up a tiny bit. On the back, is this crooked? I'm sorry if it is. On the back of this, I've just folded those strips over on the back, and I'm in the process of running stitching those down. So all of these that are free right now and not stitched down yet, they will be stitched down on the back with just a running stitch. And I may or may not cover this muslin where the stitching is. I mean, no one's really going to see it. If it's a wall hanging, no one will see it. But depending on how messy it gets back here, I'm just one of those people that I'm not crazy about seeing all the mess. But depending on how it looks, I will either decide to just leave this muslin or cover this with something. And you can see where it kind of puckered. It was really hard, and my piece is small, but even though everything, the elements were pinned on the front, it was very hard to gather it in your hands and not have some kind of puckering on the back. So that's just kind of part of it that happens, and I didn't put a hoop on this, so there is some puckering. And this is the needle that I'm using to stitch this down. This is a black gold needle, size 9, and I absolutely love them. They don't seem to bend. It's a clover black gold needle, and I love these needles. Hopefully there's not a glare. Hopefully there's not a glare on there. And these are clovers, black gold needles. I'm not using the betweens, I'm using the applique sharps, and they are, I mean, they just go through the fabric like butter. They are really, really beautiful needles. I happen to love them, just something that I prefer, and it just makes stitching that much more enjoyable. So that is where my little background stands right now. I'll sew these lace pieces on and maybe do a little thread painting here and here, and I'll finish stitching the little border, the little frame on the back of this piece, and I should be ready for the first prompt, which I know some people are guessing vase, but we really don't know what it'll be. So this has been really a fun challenge, and this is my take on it, collaging on top of my solid pieces of fabric. So thank you very much for joining me today. Strings everywhere. When you tear fabric, there's strings. Usually I'm covered with strings after stitching on this, but thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm wishing you many blessings. Bye for now. So this was the effect that I was going for in my table on my still life. Just kind of an aged look with paint showing through a worn table. I don't know if I achieved that, but that's what I was going for.